Is Amazon FBA wholesale dead, or is it still an opportunity that we should be taking advantage of in 2026? That is the question that I want to know. And today I'm going to be interviewing someone who has been in the game for over 8 years and has been doing brand direct and wholesale reselling. And they're going to share everything that you need to know about this interesting topic right now. Okay, so today I'm joined with Cajua from the Wholesale Network. He has been selling for over 8 years doing wholesale, and I don't want to introduce him anymore. I'll let him do it. So Cajua, thank you so much for joining me. Give us a quick background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, business model, what do you do, time selling, any facts, just so we can get a kind of idea of your experience.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. My name is Cajua Robinson. I've been selling on Amazon since 2017, but really been taking it seriously since about the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. Me and my business partner, Josh, we started with private label, did that as a side hustle while we were still in college. We launched 2 products. One we learned, one was actually successful and profitable. COVID hit. We had to pivot. We started doing retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, successfully scaled OA 2022 to about $500,000 in revenue. And then 2023, we kind of did hybrid OA and wholesale. And then 2024, we made the decision to really pivot and focus on brand direct wholesale. And now that's pretty much our entire business model is brand direct wholesale, but more than just buying directly from brands, also looking to get an exclusive partnership. And along with that exclusivity, also offering value added services like listing optimization and PPC management.
Wow, I love it. So obviously you got a broad range of experience, and obviously absolutely love it. Private label, OA, wholesale, brand direct, absolutely amazing. Now, the reason why I've asked you to come obviously on the channel today is because it's an interesting space. Like, you recently released a video called Emergency Video, and someone we all know in this space, Corey Ganim, has recently left. And from my side, I do OA primarily. We do a bit of wholesale, and I know from the reselling space, the big question is OA, is that dead? Everyone talks about that, but the route that everyone was talking about was go into wholesale, go into
Right.
brand direct.
Yep.
But also we had someone who was doing this, and now they've left the game, which begs a big question. Is the whole Amazon FBA model dead? What does the future look like? So let me ask you that question first of all. Like, what are your thoughts on Amazon FBA wholesale 2025, 2026? Is it dead? What's going on?
Amazon FBA is not dead. Wholesale on Amazon is not dead. OA on Amazon is not dead. Has the game changed significantly though? Yes. The gold rush of Amazon FBA private label was kind of like the mid 2010s, almost up until 2020. That was when, it was a very immature platform. You could, any product where there was keyword search volume, if you just did keyword stuffing, you would immediately get to the top. You'd be the best ranked product and you'd just make a lot of money. Those days of private label are also over. Not to say you can't make money private label, but the gold rush when it was easy is over. Very similar to OA, kind of 2021 through 2023. A lot of that also being the after effects of the COVID global supply chain nightmare. There was just so much arbitrage opportunity, right? And so it was kind of the golden era of OA where it was a lot easier to make money. Similar to wholesale, I think some of the wholesale easy money kind of was also coming out of the global supply chain rebalancing itself out of COVID, as well as Amazon was much less strict on the supply chain documentation that you required. So there was a big shift in the wholesale space towards the end of, I would say middle of 2024. Was when a lot of people started getting Section 3s, which sucks because a lot of people were trying to run honest businesses and getting taken down by Amazon, but they just didn't have good supply chain. And that's part of what's in the terms of services with Amazon. It is the seller's responsibility to know where their product is coming from and to make sure that it's legit. And kind of side comment there, part of what happened at the same time, and you probably might be aware of this, is like the Telegram group chats where people were buying wholesale products in these Telegram group chats and they were getting really, really good prices that were too good to be true because they were too good to be true. And what was happening is there were actually people who were systematically stealing products and then targeting Amazon sellers. And so once the cops and the FBI, whoever was investigating that, figured out where it was coming from, since those sellers were selling stolen goods, they got shut down. But then there was pressure from the government on Amazon to say, hey, you need to clean up your platform and make sure that the goods are authentic. And that's where more of that pressure came from. And so that kind of is part of what pushed us towards brand direct. Thankfully, we didn't have any supply supply chain issues, but we wanted to just make sure that we were as airtight as possible. So going back to your question about, is the space dead? No, not at all. It's still possible. I'm still profitable. Tons of people in our community are still actively partnering with brands, actively making money, but it is more difficult now than it was before, and you have to be much more strategic in how you go about the business.
Interesting. I obviously I've been selling for 8 years, and I really understand what you're saying. I remember the days when I first started. They were like, you could make the garlic
Yeah,
peeler, or I
garlic
think it was,
press,
or
that
the
was the
garlic press.
classic
That was it.
example.
Yeah,
Yes.
everyone did private label.
Yep.
And it's funny. And it's interesting because so Amazon as a business, there are many. Obviously, Amazon's the biggest e-commerce platform, but within that e-commerce platform, there are opportunities. Private label,
Mhm.
you talked about that, and I agree. A lot of people still look at it, but it's really tough. It's really, really tough right now. Everyone's like, "Oh, you can do it for like 3 to 5,000." Like, no, you need tens of thousands to get going, and then still no guarantee. OA is still a really, that definitely in COVID. Interesting of wholesale, you talked about like generic wholesale. Now you're talking more, say, brand direct. Is that so when we talk about Amazon as a whole, and within that business, there are opportunities. Is brand direct the one right now where you make the money on Amazon, or is it something else that's coming up, or what does that look like? Because I'm following the trend, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for me, the long-term play is brand direct. I think kind of going back to the difference between like a traditional wholesale and brand direct. So traditional wholesale would be buying from distributors or from wholesalers, which is still a viable method. The problem specifically with the smaller distributors and wholesalers is, even if they have authentic goods, if they are not willing to provide you the supply chain documentation, or if Amazon doesn't recognize them off the rip, then if you end up having an issue with Amazon, you might not be able to get that account health violation removed. And so that's why we like to partner with brands, because I would much rather have the brand know that I'm selling on Amazon, have the brand want me selling on Amazon, and have the brand give me all the documentation necessary. So I prefer to have a letter of authorization, clean supply chain, to be in their brand registry. And then, I mean, frankly, I just sleep better at night.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so Amazon FBA Dead, you're going to get two types of people: one who's an existing seller, and another one who's getting started. So let's kind of break that down.
Mhm.
Do you like, we talked about private label, we talked about OA, we talked about normal generic wholesale, and now we talked about brand direct. Is brand direct the route that people should be thinking about if they're just getting started? What kind of advice would you give to those people right now thinking about where the market in Amazon's going and what's happening? If you're finding this useful and you actually want to go faster in your Amazon business, then here are 3 ways I can help you. First, it's going to be hands-on guidance. Now, I offer one-to-one coaching, working together directly on your business to solve the specific problems that are holding you back. Number 2, if you want to be part of a serious group of Amazon sellers, check out a community I created called the Amazon FBA War Room. Now, we run weekly live coaching calls, training sessions, and have full course material to take you from 0 to 10,000, plus a really supportive group of other Amazon sellers. And right now, there's a free 7-day trial, so you can jump in and see if that's for you. And third, if you're just getting started and you want a shortcut to find profitable products, grab my free top 100 supplier list from both the UK and USA. It's packed with real suppliers for OA sellers, and it's where we found many of our profitable products from. Now, all of the links to this can be in the description down below, so check them out after this video.
Yeah, so I'll start with the new seller. So for someone who's new, I still think that OA is a great way to get started, especially if you're in the phase of testing out if you like Amazon at all. You might not be all in yet, right? You don't want to spend a lot of money on a big PO, but you just want to get your feet wet, get proof of concept, and OA is still great for that. Because especially if you're buying from big box retailers that are widely recognized across the US, that is considered by Amazon a legitimate supply chain, right? Obviously, things can still happen. That's not a guarantee from me. But for the most part, from the people I talk to, like yourself and other people who are still doing OA, when they get account health violations, they're still able to beat those claims, right? Versus, honestly, in that sense, OA would be safer, in my opinion, than buying from some sketchy wholesale supplier, because that person is much less like, their invoices are much less likely to work. So I would still say for the new person getting started with OA, great way to start a business with very minimal capital and very low risk. Long term, I do think brand direct is the way that people should be thinking. Now, you can scale OA to huge numbers. Personally, I just don't find that enjoyable. That sounds like a nightmare to me. I would much rather have a smaller catalog, work closely with a few brands that have good recognition, and just be their go-to Amazon person. It's also like most of my brands, I place a monthly PO or a PO every couple months. I'm not sitting there checking out for hours on end. I don't need a team of 8 VAs that are checking out for me. And again, not knocking that model. That's just not what I enjoy doing. So yeah, for the new person, I think starting with OA is good and then trying to get towards brand direct. And for the existing person, it really just depends on where your model is. If you're doing OA, but you want to grow, maybe you want to add in brand direct, then start reaching out to the brands that you're selling OA. That's the easiest way to find your first brand. That's how I got my first brand contract. If you are a seller who is doing wholesale through distribution, if you know that your distributors have good supply chain, you have a good relationship with them, their invoices have worked for issues in the past, honestly, just keep doing what you're doing. But if you're buying from Telegram group chats and wholesalers on Instagram that are DMing you, then I would probably change what you're doing pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think you got to be careful.
Yeah,
Again, I'll kind of can we get a little bit more factual?
sure.
And I think one of the things I see is I've seen it where someone's like, "Oh, I've got a lot of money. I'm getting started in wholesale," and they've got like $4,000.
Mhm.
And I'm like, we do the math of like how long it takes, how much you got to buy, and how long it takes to sell to get the money back. And if you're working on like a 20-30% ROI, you're not going to do anything. And then also they're doing investments. So like, I think the question I'd ask you is, again, if someone's getting started, how much capital would you be like, okay, if you got this much away, if you got this much, here's the lower end for wholesale, here's the upper end. Probably, brand direct works really well here. Just in your experience, and appreciate that there are going to be obviously cases outside of this, as we all know.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the beautiful things about brand direct that people don't necessarily realize, especially compared to the distribution game, is with brand direct, you have the ability, especially with a tool like Smart Scout, to find brands that fit your bankroll. So you just find smaller brands. Like I've placed profitable POs directly with the brand that was $500. Obviously, I wouldn't call that's not the norm. I'm looking for bigger POs because if I'm only spending $500, I mean, that's essentially OA all the time, right? But if you even just have 2-3 grand and you're like, all right, I'm all in on Amazon. I want to start reaching out to brands and building that relationship. I say go for it. But again, if you're just like getting your feet wet and getting proof of concept, then yeah, maybe spend $500 on OA, flip that a couple times. But once you have 2-3 grand, you can start doing brand direct. Now, obviously, if you have more capital, if you've got 10K, 15K, 20K, then now you're going to be able to work with better brands because they're bigger, they're more established, so on and so forth. But yeah, you can just target smaller brands and get started with a PO of 500 to $1,000 for sure. I've seen it plenty of times.
Interesting. No, I like it. Appreciate it. And I think that's really good because so what we're basically saying is there's still opportunity in Amazon. Why? It's the biggest marketplace in the world on e-commerce. But the game has changed. The game has changed in the fact that what used to be happening, it used to be really easy, but now everyone's just getting better at what they do. And so therefore, you as an operator need to get better. And so the models change as a result of that. But also as well, I think the other thing that I've definitely seen is that you do need to treat it like a business. It isn't
100%.
something where you can just kind of side hustle it, do it whenever I like, and then be like, oh, why is Amazon treating me so badly? Let me ask that question. When I say the words treat it like a business, you said 100%. What does treating it like a business mean? Like define that. Like what does it actually look like running an Amazon business?
That's a really good question. I don't think I've been asked that one before. I think some people can think of that just meaning you need to put in more time, which is part of it. I didn't have an answer prepared for this, but off the top of my head, I would say it's two things. So one, it would be professionalism, especially with brand relationships, which is very different than OA, where OA is just transactional. Brand direct is very relational. So professionalism and how you approach the brands, how you're talking to them on the phone, timely responses via email. That doesn't mean you need to be checking your email 24/7, but within 24 hours, getting back to people same day or next day. Same thing with phone calls. And then also long-term vision, because again, the days of going from 0 to 100K revenue, Chad scaling OA. Sure, there are probably some use cases of people who are still doing that, but that's just not happening the same way that it used to be. And brand direct is a slower burn. Now, again, if you have the bankroll and you're able to get a big brand right away, then you're going to have good sales. But if you don't have that bigger bankroll and you're snowballing your capital, it's going to take probably, I would say, 6 months to a year to really build something strong. So professionalism and then having that long-term vision and commitment towards it versus just saying, oh, I'm just going to, maybe call one brand a week and then a year later wonder why you don't have a strong business.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize. They think we all watch the YouTube videos, we all watch the shorts, the Instagram reels, and they're like, here's how easy it is to get started. And you think, oh, I can do it on the weekend, and then by next week I can quit my job. And you're like, you said the word 1 year there, and I think that's a really good estimation. Like, you got to keep at this for 365 days. This becomes what you think about, and it is hard work. Two things I want to jump into. One, you talked about don't be buying products from Telegram group chats, for example. Completely agree. But one of the questions which is kind of around that, vetting suppliers. This is a big question. You talked about like, do you have like a vetting process? How do you vet suppliers that you're going to buy from?
The simplest thing that I do is when I do outreach, I just go to the brand first. If I can buy from the brand, great. Then I know it's legit. I know it's coming from the brand. If I can't buy from the brand, I ask the brand for their distributors. And then if the brand recommends the distributor, then I know the distributor is getting the product from the brand. If you go directly to the distributor, you can always ask them and say, hey, are you like, where do you get the product? And most distributors will be honest with you. They probably won't give you their direct source necessarily, but they'll tell you if they're buying from the brand or if they're buying gray market, which is just liquidation and closeouts. And again, that doesn't mean the product is illegitimate, but that does mean that that supply chain is not going to be airtight enough for Amazon if you need to provide that documentation. I always recommend go to the brand first. And if not with the distributors, just ask. And if they dodge the question or be sketchy about it, then that's probably a sign that they're not the kind of distributor you should buy from.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a really important point, especially when it was all kicking off with Section 3s and everything's going on. I know people who had, I don't know. I think the most I heard was about 750,000 held in stock. People were saying like, just one person. And, when you spoke to them, they're like, you were buying products that were getting incredible margins. And again, we had to like speak to a lot of our community, our staff, and said, look, if you start seeing things which are crazy good, red flags should be going off.
Yes.
Because this is a big warning sign.
Yep.
And again, doing the vetting checks, so important. And I love that. I call it manufacturer down. Speak to the manufacturer. Who are they?
Yep.
The brand, and then find out who you get it. And by the way, also as well, those distributors, they're generally the best prices as well, which is a really good point. So really good.
If you're asking the question, how is the distributor making money? That means they probably stole it.
I love it. But then, I've interviewed many people who have said we've been buying from a distributor for like 5 years. And then eventually we got enough volume to buy from the brand, and the brand gave us a more expensive price than the distributor because the distributor is locked into like historically cheap prices. You're like, so really interesting. Does happen. It's a weird world, the supply chain.
It can be that, or the other thing is just volume, right? So like we have one brand that we buy direct from, but because of how much volume we buy, when we place an order, we place enough for them to make a manufacturing line just for us. And so a lot of distributors do the same thing. So let's just say for round numbers sake, like if a distributor is ordering 10,000 units from the brand at a time, but for Amazon, only 500 to 1,000 units are selling there. So you're placing an order, if you're placing an order for 2-3 months, that's 1,000 to 1,500 units. And so the same way how distributors have MOQs, manufacturers have an MOQ. So if the brand places a manufacturing line with their manufacturer for 10,000 units, the brand is going to get a better price per unit for the 10,000 unit line versus if they have a 2,000 unit line that they have for themselves that then you're buying from. So the economies of scale go all the way back up to like when the physical product is being made.
And I guess, like, just on a tangent, I guess it's interesting to, when you speak to brands, ask around these questions to understand how they operate and what goes on, because then you can, if you recognize that maybe the distributor buys once every 3 months, you're like, hey, can I get in on that order? Because that's probably going to be cheaper to them. And again, they might not, the person you're speaking to might not really recognize that, or you're like, actually, there's a good opportunity for us to buy more at the right time of year. So it's a really interesting point there.
Yeah, it's a great hack.
I want to bring it right back.
Sure.
We talked at the very beginning, and I mentioned it. Is Amazon FBA dead? The reason why the question is OA, people have talked about it's dying. No, it's just getting a lot harder, and the easy money's gone. Same as private label. Everyone talks about wholesale, get into wholesale, and then brand direct. And what was interesting, and the reason why this call and your video previously was emergency message going out. Corey Ganim, and if you don't know, he's a big wholesale seller, or was, recently stopped selling. Obviously, I know you and Corey are good friends, and obviously he was part of the wholesale network. Can you just share a bit about that? I appreciate I'm not looking for anything private, but more like,
Sure.
what is his reasons for leaving? What happened there? What's he going into? Like, what's the opportunity he looked at differently? Tell me about that.
I knew of the news before he made it public. He told me, and to be frank, and this is probably not the tea that the people want to hear, but he just wasn't excited by Amazon anymore. And from a business perspective, he was like, I would rather be involved in building a business that I'm a little bit more excited about. And from the community perspective too, because his mindset wasn't 100% all in on Amazon, and he didn't feel right teaching something that he wasn't all in with, especially that. So Corey did have some brand direct relationships and some distributor relationships as well. But the brand direct relationships, he didn't do as much of the value added services himself as like someone like myself or Jonah is doing. And so even within the community, me and Jonah were kind of taking the lead on teaching those things, which is another reason why he kind of felt comfortable to step away from that. But yeah, his interests lied in other places, and he was excited about scaling other businesses. So now he's more focused on, I guess, AI automation implementation for like, I guess, like as a B2B service. So that's what he's focusing on now. But yeah, I mean, he ran up the bag for Amazon Wholesale for, I think he's been selling for as long as me, but he started going full-time sooner. So I want to say he's been full-time in Amazon since maybe like 2018, 2019.
Wow.
Yeah. And just doing wholesale distribution, clean operation with VAs. And yeah.
Yeah, it was I've done quite a few interviews. It was a really efficient operation.
Very.
I think it was like 1.5 VAs, like 3 million a year. So like,
Yeah.
didn't really do very much.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Corey, getting to work with Corey has been and will always be a great experience. I mean, seeing how he operates behind the scenes, the dude is just dialed. Everything he does is just, yeah, he's a very efficient entrepreneur.
Let me ask you, what does that mean? You said dialed. Like, so if people are watching right now and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, so I want to be dialed. I want to be an efficient entrepreneur. What does that
Yeah.
mean? Define it.
Yeah, so the way he operates is very clear. So he has very clear operating systems, very clear SOPs, very clear KPIs. So SOPs, standard operating procedures, just whether it's a Google Doc, Notion, whatever. When we're doing this is how we do it. And KPIs, key performance indicators, these are the main numbers that we need to look at on a weekly, daily basis to make sure that the business is performing well, and then making sure that his team is all on the same page. And that's kind of how he drives all of his businesses. And I mean, honestly, probably the undertones of his success is that sort of operating system.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think if anyone's watching, we all watch the YouTube videos, we all watch the reels, and we think, you know what, just go buy some stuff, sell it on Amazon, no problem. Which is correct, you can do it. But if you want to scale this, that's where you need to get to.
Yep.
Staff, SOPs, really like systemized processes, things really, really working. And I think interesting because you mentioned about it, like he wasn't really excited. And this is the one interesting thing I always kind of think about the entrepreneurship. Our entire goal of life is to find the things that we really enjoy. And it doesn't necessarily mean it will be this, but it is about finding what you enjoy. And it could be making the garlic press, private label. It could be buying, going in store, scanning stuff. People love that.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of RA sellers still love it because they love doing that activity. Or it could
Which
be,
blows my mind because I hated that. I hated it.
I'm 100% with you. Or it could even be like the brand direct and doing that side. Let's kind of go through wholesale. Let's talk about the journey from getting started, going right through to brand direct, like starting on wholesale. If you were to get started today, what's the best way to do it? What's your advice for someone watching right now? Okay, Amazon FBA wholesale is not dead. I'm interested still. I understand why people have left. How do I get started? What do I do? Talk through that journey. And let's go from brand new beginner, right? And we'll take it all the way up to where you are, value add services, brand direct. We'll understand what that means. Take it away, getting started.
I would say the first thing is you're going to want to have Smart Scout, because Smart Scout gives you the best brand level data that you can see on Amazon. So you can see how much a brand is selling on a monthly basis, which goes back to what I said earlier about finding a brand that meets your bankroll. So like, you're not going to want to target brands that are selling $1 million a month on Amazon. I would say you're going to want to target brands that are selling $10,000, $20,000 or less a month on Amazon. Make a list of 100 brands that fit that criteria plus a few others, and then contact all of them as quickly as possible. Good thing to know about brand direct is you don't need to provide value-added services in order to do brand direct. We have brands where all we do is buy and sell. We don't run ads. We don't optimize their listings. It's like they know we're selling on Amazon, and we just essentially stock the digital shelves. And you can do that as well. So when you're starting out, that's how I would start. The value-added services really come into play when you're looking for exclusivity, which is being their only seller. And that's my favorite part about brand direct, because that's honestly where, and I'm not a person who preaches passive income, but that's where you really get a business that is much more automated. A lot of work up front to get the exclusivity, to open the account, to do the initial listing revamp, to set up advertising. But then after that, I mean, I have brands where every 30 days we place a PO for $20,000. My team kind of monitors the ads. We send them a monthly report, and it's probably about 10 minutes a month of maintenance for me. And it just prints 15% gross margin. So that's the long-term beauty of brand direct. And then we have some brands where they're more in a growth mindset. So those brands take up a lot more time for me. I'm maybe texting the brand owner every day. They're asking for my opinion on their email list, on social media marketing, on creator connections, and doing all of these different sorts of things to really try and grow the brand, which I also enjoy as well. And that's part of the reason why I like brand direct, because I like kind of that partnership, having that communication, being able to be involved in the growth of the brand. So, but going back to your question, I kind of went on a rabbit trail there. Getting started in the beginning, get a list of 100 brands, contact them all initially as soon as possible. And then 100 brands at first, when you're first doing outreach, you probably won't be that great at outreach. So you might have a low open rate. Out of 100, you might open maybe 1 or 3 accounts. That's okay. Don't be discouraged. That's just the name of the game. Then you want to follow up. You want to follow up, whether it's every week, every month, every quarter. You want to, the brands where you kind of start to get a feel like, oh, this is one that I really like, or this one was kind of a maybe, but not right now. Keep following up with those brands. And that's another really important factor to realize, whether it's wholesale distribution or brand direct, but especially brand direct, timing is huge, because a brand's situation might change from month to month, from year to year. It might be that at one point they have everything in-house, but then the employee that was handling Amazon leaves. Maybe the brand owner was doing it themselves, but now they want to focus more on getting into brick and mortar, and they don't have the bandwidth to focus on Amazon. So that's why you want to keep following up, because sometimes it's not even that your outreach isn't good, it's just the timing's wrong. And then if you keep following up, you'll be top of mind in the person that they want to work with at the right time. Like, I have a brand I've been following up for a year and a half, and he keeps kind of blowing me off, but I want the brand so bad. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep following up, because if he does eventually want an Amazon guy, I know he's going to go with me, because no one else has been following up with him for 18 months straight. I can almost guarantee it.
I used to do recruitment, and there's a company who I used to call for like every month for a year and a half. And eventually I got them. I was a brand new trainee, and my colleague was like, that is the best company you're ever going to get. And I was like, why? They've been a pain in the ass. It's like, no, because if anyone else calls them, they're never getting in.
Exactly.
And I was like, great. Like, I didn't really think of it that way. So yeah, all those clients, where, the brands, you can't get in, they're going to be the best ones. So keep chasing up. You mentioned like 3 out of 100. So 3%, 1 to 3%. Like, if anyone's looking right now, like, how long would it take you to find? I'm guessing to create the list isn't too hard using Smart Scout, but like, how long would you expect it to take someone to contact 100 brands, reach out? Like, initially, how long would that take? Could they do it in a day? Could they do it on a weekend, and as they do in TikTok?
Yeah, a weekend would be tough, just because a lot of these brands are traditional businesses, right? So some of them might only operate 9 to 5. If you're contacting smaller brands, there is a possibility that it might just be a 1 or 2 person show and you're calling someone's cell phone. So maybe they'll pick up on the weekend. But for the most part, it's advantageous if you're able to call during the work week. And then it really just depends on what your schedule looks like, how much time you're willing to put in. I mean, you can call 10 brands a day and have that list knocked out in 2 weeks, or you could call 2 brands a day and it's going to take you a few months. It really just depends on how aggressive you want to be.
And for you, do you just say like, keep calling brands and following up until you've got all the accounts that you can do? Or what does that look like in the infinite? When do you stop, or how does that look? Or I've run out of brands I can't do anymore. I'm sure you've heard people say that. There are no more brands left.
I would say it depends on your bankroll. So if you're a person who's only got $2,000, you're calling 100 brands. As soon as you open an account with a brand that's willing to sell to you, and if there's more than $2,000 worth of profitable product for you to spend your money on, stop calling brands, right? But if you have access to more capital and you have more money to spend than products to buy, keep calling brands.
You mentioned a profitable product. What does a profitable product mean? Define it. There are metrics.
Yeah. So a product where you can spend your money on it, and then let's say you buy it for $25, sell it for 50, and make, I'm trying to think of a seller amp chart in my head, but make, I don't know, anywhere from $8 to $15 on the product, depending on the margin.
And do you do it off cash profits, or do you do it off a percentage margin? Like, if someone right now is trying to do what you're saying, the question I'm trying to ask is, right, I'm called in brands, got this brand, great. What are the metrics to say this is a good product, or like, no, you shouldn't?
Yes. So my goal is 15% gross margin. And by gross margin, I mean factoring in all product and Amazon related costs. So that means you're factoring in all your Amazon fees, your FBA fees, the cost of the product, shipping costs, prep costs. I might be missing one, but I think that's pretty much all of the product related costs. So after all of those, 15% gross margin, which is, depending on the cost of the product, somewhere between like I want to say 26 and 32% ROI, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty much the same as what we do when I look at OA, I'm doing, right, I'll go down to 25%. I'll actually go down to 20% ROI, but I still want the 15% margin. But again, it depends if you can shift it quick, what's going on with it.
Yeah.
There's lots of other factors. The
Yeah, it's
15
not a hard
margin's
and
the main
fast.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
And
cool.
the
Interesting.
other thing I'll say there too, and this is going back to the question you asked me about treating it like a business and thinking long term. One of the interesting differences with brand direct versus pretty much the other models of OA/RA wholesale. With OA/RA wholesale, you don't have control over pricing, and especially in a competitive marketplace. Like, sure, some listings are cyclical. You know, a lot of sellers will come on, the price goes down, sellers sell out, the price goes up. So you can kind of almost try to time the market or do buy and long holds with that. With brand direct, I have brands where I'll see the brand and I get their catalog. I'm like, okay, that pricing is break even or maybe a few percentage points of margin, which in the OA world, then I'm probably just going to skip over that product. With brand direct, if I can see that there are ways that I can actually help the brand and I can have a couple good conversations with a decision maker at that brand, and I have that sixth sense that long term this could be an exclusive, I will sell their products and not make money to build up transactional trust with them to eventually get to the point where I can go exclusive. Because if I can go exclusive, then I can have control over the pricing and I can raise the price. And oftentimes, especially with the brand direct, you have customers that are already looking for that specific brand. And even though they might be used to buying it a little bit cheaper on Amazon, if the pricing goes up to be close to where the pricing is on the brand's website, those customers probably are not going to stop buying on Amazon. We've done that multiple times. So I can see like, okay, this product might not be profitable now, but if I can become the exclusive seller, then it's going to be significantly more profitable.
And I'm guessing these are all kind of like, I call them layers, strategies to the game of how you play it. Like, it isn't a straight cool brand, fine product, yeah, no, next one. Like, you can do that, obviously. If you've got the bankroll and you've got the experience and the know-how, you can see if there's an opportunity to play the longer term game, get involved, raise prices. But again, it's like, the way I think about it is, one of the downfalls of OA is, you're right, we're always competing against the market. We're always worried about what happens, and there's no love. There's no like, no one really cares. It's a very like cutthroat business. Whereas when you build that relationship, all of a sudden now you can add value, you can start negotiating different terms, and then all of a sudden that gives you a competitive edge that just other people can't compete against.
Exactly.
And I think one of the big things I always think about in business is, what is your edge? If you have no edge, then that's your margin. Like, you've got to be able to think, how do I play this game better than anyone else? Because then I maximize. And that's the question you're asking.
Yeah. My edge is my brands won't sell to you. That's my edge.
I've called them for a year and a half. Good luck. You better start going. So just talk. Okay, so we've talked about wholesale, getting started, and the different things. You mentioned earlier on about buying from Telegram groups. That's a bad thing. Don't do that one.
Don't do that.
What are the other like concerns, issues, challenges that people should be aware of, like big no-nos, that if they want to get into this business model in 2026? What kind of advice can you give them?
Yeah, other than having a sketchy supply chain, we'll call it. I mean, in my mind, that is honestly the biggest issue. Another one that's coming to mind is you do have to be careful when you are contacting brands, because some brands don't, or let me not say some brands, a lot of brands don't understand how Amazon works in terms of the demand and supply. And so this actually applies across multiple of our brands as well that we now are exclusive with, where it's kind of funny because the same thing that will happen in OA will happen with brand direct. Where like, okay, a product ends up on a lead list, it looks really good, then everyone decides to buy it at the same time and it becomes terrible. That can also happen with a brand where for some reason, whatever the metrics are with that brand, it shows up on everyone's smart scout. Everyone's calling this brand from the brand. So think about this from the brand owner's perspective. All of a sudden you start getting all of these calls for wholesale orders coming in. You don't know why. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, I must have gone viral on TikTok. All these stores want to buy my product. This is great. You don't realize they're all Amazon sellers. So you sell to all of them thinking that your business has just doubled. And then lo and behold, the price on Amazon now halves, because let's say the listing's selling 500 units a month. Every seller came to you and bought 200 units, but there was like, I don't know, 20 sellers. So it's like now there's a year worth of stock on this listing. The demand on Amazon didn't decrease. The same amount of people, 500 people are buying, but let's say there's, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000 units of stock on this listing. So we all know what happens in that case. Everyone starts dropping the price to try and win the buy box. Now the pricing on Amazon is 50% of what it is on the brand's website. Now the brand isn't getting any sales on their website because there's this massive sale going on Amazon. And now the brand's like, why am I not getting sales on my website? What's going on Amazon? And this is where their supply chain and their control, they start losing control over their supply chain. So if you're contacting a brand, this is hard to do because they won't always give you this information, but still do a test order, because you still don't know what the Amazon situation is going to end up looking like. And this is also why you want to bring up the conversation about actually partnering with them and talking about Amazon earlier rather than hiding it, because you could end up in that sort of situation. And also the same way how you need to build trust with a brand for them to go exclusive with you, you also need to be able to trust the brand owner. Because I've heard multiple stories of where the brand owner says, hey, we're only going to sell to 3 or 4 people, but then 6 months later, there's still 15 people on the listing. And that seller, under the assumption that there were going to be less sellers, bought a lot of stock, but now there's tons of people on the listing. So you still have to be careful, because it is still B2B. You're dealing with humans. It might not always be malintent. It might just be they don't fully have control over their supply chain. But those are just some things that you have to look out for as well.
5 years ago, wholesale was easy. Hi, I want to buy your product. Sure, sell it. No questions asked. Then 3 years ago, don't quote me on the time frames I'm making up. Then it was, hi, I want to buy your product. Are you an Amazon seller? Buy.
Yes.
Thing.
Yep.
I've heard now it's changing whereby you call them up and they're like, you want to buy my product? Okay, we're really happy because there are less Amazon sellers nowadays, and so therefore less people are buying. Is that the case, or like what's the market like in regards to contacting suppliers and wholesalers?
No, unfortunately, we're not there yet, because I think maybe the Amazon social media space has gotten a little quieter, but there's still a lot of people behind the scenes that don't have a presence on social media that are calling distributors and brands. What you pointed out is really good, because it used to be just, okay, you're getting a wholesale order, whether you're a brand or distributor, like, this is awesome, I'm going to sell. And then they started realizing that, oh, a lot of these people are Amazon sellers and it's going to mess up Amazon. There's still some brands that don't know that, but a lot have become wise to that. So they will ask if you're going to sell on Amazon. And if you are, then they might just blow you off. And then part of overcoming that objection is part of the sauce of doing brand direct. But I don't think I've heard of anyone who's been like, oh my gosh, yes, you're an Amazon seller. I've been waiting for an Amazon seller to call me. This is a great day. I don't think we're there yet. But
That's
what
like
I will say,
on Tinder
yeah,
going,
which
yes.
but this is interesting, which I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, is I do think the small niche of brands that would fall into that category would be private label sellers. I think there's actually, and I don't know if I can say small or large, how many, but there is a type of private label seller who launched their brand on Amazon in private label days, early mid 2010s, have been very successful and have a really strong brand. But maybe similar to Corey, they're just not excited about Amazon anymore. Their interests are in other places, but they built up such a great brand that they have ownership over. They're not going to just stop the brand. So those private label sellers are actually willing to have a third party person come in as their brand direct exclusive and then just buy direct from them and handle Amazon. And so I've actually worked with 2 brands like that. Used to be private label seller just selling themselves. They don't want to deal with Amazon. They might be focusing on other things, or they are still excited about Amazon. They just want to change up the business model, and then they're willing to sell to a third party seller. So that is the one kind of niche approach that a lot of people aren't trying. It's also kind of hard to figure out like what private label seller is going to want to do that, which one isn't. But yeah, that's another kind of interesting approach.
It's interesting. It's like we started off with private label, we went
Mhm.
OA, wholesale, brand direct, and now we're buying back from the original
Yep.
people. Yeah, one big cycle, big loop. You
Yep.
mentioned about it there. Some people like don't want to be involved with Amazon, things going on. I think one of the big areas, if anyone's doing any research getting into this, is like costs. There's one thing I can guarantee every year, that Amazon's costs are going up. There's more
Yep.
costs, more fees coming in. Like, how are you still able to make money?
Yeah, I mean, with us, this is just how the economy works. I mean, when tariffs happen and manufacturing costs go up, and then shipping costs go up, eventually the price of things go up. Everyone, I'm sure, has heard about the cost of eggs going up. So eventually that cost is just getting passed on to the customer. Thankfully for us, we actually haven't been that majorly impacted by the tariffs, just from the categories that we're in. So I haven't really had to raise a lot of my prices on Amazon to maintain the same sort of margin. But that's, again, the beauty of brand direct is like, if I need to raise price on Amazon $1 to maintain my margin, it's going to raise price on Amazon $1 to maintain my margin.
You mentioned you do something called value ads. What's a value ad?
Yeah, so that's
Define
just
it.
the way I look at it is I'm exchanging a service for free in regards to being the exclusive seller. So if I'm the exclusive seller, I will make your listings better and I will spend money on advertising out of my margin.
Interesting. Do you ever get it where the manufacturer gives you money to spend on advertising to drive it, or is it always you
That's
spending
the
it?
best. That's the best. Yes.
And in my mind, when we think about obviously the private label, OA, wholesale, brand direct, brand rosette with value ads. So that's basically you're buying from the brand. You can probably, and then you're improving listings. You're driving paid ads, because I know Amazon right now, their marketing revenue is like insane.
Yeah,
That's their biggest growth area
it's
right
their
now.
most profitable department by far, by a lot.
Wow.
And the way I like to think about it, and I didn't come up with this, I forget who I heard it from, but just think of Amazon like digital real estate. And so for a brand, that's why you want a lot of products. You want good looking products. It's like, curbside appeal for when someone's trying to buy a house. You want a listing that looks good. You want images that look good. And then spending money on PPC is just getting that listing in as many places as possible for as many customers to see.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. And that's a whole nother skill set to learn, isn't it? And you mentioned about you have staff that do that. Or I think
Mhm.
Corey had staff that did that as
Yep.
well.
Yeah. And that was part of
Go.
it, which is funny with my story, which is unique, but that was part of the advantage of coming from private label. Because a lot of people, like if you start in OA, you don't need to know how to run ads, but I had to know how to run ads. So that knowledge set kind of, again, full circle into the brand direct side of things.
I think the lesson is learn more skills. One question
Yes.
to come back to, or to come around, you mentioned it, and again, I'll come back to Corey and the whole kind of thing, is he went off to do like AI modeling. And I appreciate right now in the whole kind of make money online space, AI is the buzzword that
Yes.
encapsulates everything. It's like it's like drop shipping one day. It was like make garlic presses on Amazon another day. It was like TikTok affiliate. But
Yeah.
now it's AI. Like it's
Yep.
AI. So let me ask you a question. How is AI changing what you do, the way you work? How's the game in Amazon changing with AI?
Yeah, I mean, we're using AI a lot. The biggest way we're using AI actively in our business is me and my team member that helps with managing PPC. We've been working on a prompt to essentially, so like on Amazon, you can generate a search term report, which shows all of the keywords that you've bid on and the stats associated with it. So how many impressions, how many clicks, how many sales, if there were sales, if there weren't sales, and a prompt that just kind of segments all of that data really quickly into the certain kind of buckets that we want to see so that we can then go and make the appropriate changes that we want to. And that's data analysis that would take a human, especially with the amount of brands that we work with, how many different campaigns we have, like a human sifting through all that data would just take like days and days and days and days. With that prompt thrown in ChatGPT, we can get the end result in 15 minutes. So
Right.
it's just we're using AI in a way to accelerate the speed of our work.
Interesting. And let me ask you a question. Obviously, we've got two types of people: new sellers, existing
Mhm.
sellers. AI is, I say AI is going to change the world. Sound cliche.
Yeah. It
Um,
already kind of has in many ways.
yeah, agreed. I think it's really interesting. But like, the question I'm really trying to define is, if people want to learn more about AI or AI skills, what areas do you think are really going to be helpful for what you do, reselling on Amazon? And I appreciate you're slightly different, where it's not just the reselling game, it is the value add game as well. And they're different skill sets. So, any advice on that?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about AI, and I'm just talking from my own experience, is I have often underestimated what it's able to do on one side, and then on the other side, overestimated what it's able to do. Let me explain. So there are certain things that I just simply did not think to implement AI into, where then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a perfect use case for AI. And then there are other things where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, AI could take over this whole process," but it actually is only able to do a certain step in that process. So, I think a good thing to default to, which I've been trying to train my own mind on, is just whatever it is that we're doing, explain that process to AI. Just go into Gemini or ChatGPT, turn on voice mode, and just talk for 3 minutes and explain what you're doing, and ask it, how can I use AI in this process? And then AI will tell you how to use AI. And then you can
Yeah.
kind of evaluate if you want to try and implement those steps. So another thing we've been working on, me and my team, is incorporating Zapier more. I don't know if people are familiar with Zapier, but it's really good. It's kind of like it's good at connecting multiple softwares. So we have it connected to our Slack, connected to our email, connected to ChatGPT. So it's like, all right, if I get an email from this person, that goes into Slack, and then Zap will write an email draft. My admin can look at it. That then triggers this process. So kind of trying to connect more things and then having AI be underneath of that. But yeah, I'm by no means an expert, but I am an enthusiast, and I'm trying to use it as much as possible because I feel like that's just the direction the world's heading in.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think just that point of anything you're doing, any idea you have a conversation with the ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you're using. And the idea is just see if it says, yes, this is possible, and then ask more follow-up questions and be like, how hard is it to execute? What could go wrong? That and then what's really interesting is a lot of times I kind of said, could we do this? And it's like, yeah, this is really easy. I'm like, oh, what the hell? Oh my God, I didn't realize you could do that. And I thought it'd
Exactly.
be a really
Exactly.
hard way, and it was like, "Oh, no, there's just this really simple thing you can do here." I'm like,
Yep.
I feel so stupid. But it's
Yep.
amazing, isn't it,
Yes.
when you figure that out, and that leads to massive efficiencies in your
Yes.
business,
Yes.
which is game changing.
Yep. It also
Absolutely game
accelerates. I
changing.
think another a simple way that everyone should use it is just to accelerate learning.
Yeah.
So especially within Gemini. So I used to use a software called Note GPT, which I do still use. It's good for summarizing and pulling transcripts of YouTube videos. Gemini will summarize a YouTube video for you. It won't pull the full transcript. Note GPT will take the full transcript. But like if there's a video that you want to learn something on, for example, maybe someone's listening to this podcast. They're familiar with you. They're familiar with me. They don't want to sit down and watch the whole thing, but they want to get the main points and see if there's anything new that we're talking about. Take the link, throw it in Gemini, say, summarize this YouTube video. 30 to 45 seconds later, you're going to get a summary of the YouTube video with all the points that we talked about with timestamps. And if there's one thing you want to look for, then go dive in onto that. And same thing like with the sourcing video or with that, whatever it is. Like if you're trying to learn something, especially in the Amazon space, I feel like people get a lot of really niche questions. And like, I remember this in the early days, like I'm looking up a video on how to do something in Inventory Lab. And I had to watch through 15 different Inventory Lab videos to finally find the person that answered the question. With Gemini, now I could take all those YouTube videos, have it summarize each one, and then quickly find the video that actually talks about the problem that I have. So I think that's a really simple use case that can apply to literally anything, is just using AI to accelerate your learning process or problem solving process.
Correct. Yeah, I do that. I do that with a Google Notebook LLM, and the way I'm doing it right now is I read a book, I like it, and then I get all of the interviews of the
Mhm.
guy who wrote the book,
Yeah, smart.
put them into a notebook, and then it creates content around that.
Yep.
Because what I'm really trying to do is the people have asked very interesting questions around it. So I want to hear what those questions are and listen to the podcasts and stuff. It's like really interesting. So you're absorbing information in different ways that maybe the guy didn't understand. And I like it. But again, the world is changing. It's an interesting place.
Are you
Really, really
familiar
interesting.
with Dan Martell?
Yeah. I did his 12-month training like course or whatever it was.
Oh, you did? Oh, cool. Yeah, I haven't done that, but I really like his AI prompting framework, which I don't even know if he came up with it because I've seen multiple people kind of have a similar framework, but it's essentially give AI a role. So like say in our context, you are an Amazon brand direct outreach expert. And then the context is, so give it context about your specific business, where you're at, what your stage is, what size brand you're looking at. Or if you already have a brand that you're focusing on, you can even just put the links for those brands. So role, context, and then output or goal. So like, what's the goal of what you want it to do? Which would be, okay, write an email script, write a phone script, do research, market research on the brand. What are the trends around the brand's industry? Whatever the goal is in the format. So like, okay, do you want a Word doc? Do you want it in a Canvas? Do you want it as a PDF? Like whatever format you want it in. And then you just give those 4 things to the prompt and you're just going to get much better results versus if you just say, hey, I sell on Amazon and I want a script to talk to this brand, right? Which will still give you something, but the quality of the result will be much better if you use a prompting framework like that.
Agreed. I love it. I think it's so much amazing information. The way I think about AI is it's a really hardworking, dumb person. And our job is to tell it what we want very clearly so that it can be more intelligent.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it's me being stupid. So really, really interesting.
Yep. I heard one podcast, they said, think of AI like an intern that knows everything, but doesn't know your company. So it's a new hire that has this unbelievable knowledge base, but no idea how to implement it. And your job is to teach it how to implement the knowledge.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's such an interesting thing. Right. Let's talk about the future. So wholesale, people are if they're looking into it now, 2026, maybe if you were starting over today, talk me through let's say the next week's worth of work. What would be your goals for the next day, week, month, year? Talk me through what that looked like.
I'd spend a full week finding brands and doing research on those brands. And this, again, plugging Smart Scout shamelessly because it's a tool I use all the time and I love Scott. It also gives you brand reports as well, which you don't even need to fully understand. But just having that report and attaching it into the email looks really good to the brand and makes it look like you've done some research, which you technically have. So finding the brands, doing research on their contact information, pulling up brand reports on Smart Scout. If they're ones that you really, really like that you would like to sell, maybe go a little bit deeper on those. Find a week or two getting a list of 100 brands. And the next couple of weeks after that, calling all of them initially and then starting the follow-up process. And I mean, that's really the simplest and cleanest way to get started because you just need reps calling brands.
And if anyone wants to build like a repository of information for maybe their LLM, what are some good resources? Obviously, I'm guessing the wholesale network. Tell me about that. What else would you recommend looking at?
I guess in terms of like building a database, we do everything on Google Drive. And then I think we have ChatGPT connected to that too, because it can do that. Other quick AI hack within ChatGPT, create project folders. So I have the business plan and I have a project folder for every brand that we work on. And so that project folder, now I'm getting into the weeds a little bit, but that project folder for every brand has the listing copy of each product. It has the customer demographic information from brand analytics. So it can see who are the kinds of people that are shopping for this brand. We have a couple other pieces of data that we pull from brand analytics. We have all of the keywords that we're trying to rank on and running ads for in that brand in the product folder. So whenever we ask AI a question on a specific brand, it's pulling from this immense amount of context and giving us really, really good data. So that's kind of how we organize things. Yeah. And then in terms of community. So yeah, the wholesale network, I mean, this is what we're teaching people every single day, how to implement and scale brand direct wholesale. I also have a free Discord too, which I think is linked on my YouTube podcast, the Ecom Unlimited podcast. So yeah, we got a free Discord in there too. We actually just did a Q&A in there last week, I believe, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, get involved in the community, hop in some Discords. If you're really ready to take things seriously, reach out to me about the wholesale network. But the main thing, I mean, especially in the beginning, you just need to be calling brands. That's the place you need to start.
Yeah, and I think if anyone's watching, the one bit of advice I kind of give is we live in a world whereby all the information is, you don't struggle for information. What you struggle for is, one, the willingness to learn, and then number two, getting the right information at the right time that you need to take
Yes.
yourself to the next step. We can all ask ChatGPT, how do I do this? It will give you the thing. It doesn't mean we actually do anything, or that we jump to the wrong part of that. And so having people who've been there before and give you that, such a useful thing. And then also just talking about how the game's changing. I think that's an incredible point. And then using the new tools. And the thing I also learned about AI is that AI is amazing at giving you the information which has been repeated over and over and over again, but on the fringes of knowledge, which is probably the application of AI in what we're doing,
Well
it
said.
can't help you because it doesn't understand, because it has never trained on anyone using itself to do something different.
Exactly.
So that's why you need to be part of communities, learning, listening, absorbing, and playing, which I think is the most important part. So appreciate, I'll just ask it again, but I know you said it. If anyone wants to get in contact, what's the best way to find you and learn more about what you do and obviously the community? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Just shoot me a DM. I'm most active on X and Instagram. My handle is at Cajua Robinson. So just my first and last name, Cajua, Cajua Robinson, Robinson. Shoot me a DM on Instagram or X, and I will do my best to get back to you. Sometimes the DMs get flooded or buried in requests, but I periodically make sure I check through all of them.
Fantastic. We need the AI bot to deal with that one as well. I certainly know, along with all the spam. So it's great. Cajua, I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate what you said. Amazon is not dead.
Not dead.
There is opportunity, but you've got to recognize where that opportunity lies. It's not as easy as it has been before, but there's still a lot of money to be made. Amazon is the biggest platform. I think it's crazy, but you've got to do the right things. You've got to figure that out. And I just want to say thank you for everything you've learned. And if anyone wants to know, do check out the links down below. Obviously, I'll put all the wholesale network links and Cajua's social media down there so you can see as well. But for myself and everyone watching, thank you very much.